Test on one day. India, England, Australia. A poor unlucky big three-side slayer. What a player! What a player! What a player! Discussing zinger bells and white balls to hells. Baggy greens for long from New South Wales. Is the RPL heaven or hell? Will the 100 fail or do quite well? What a player! What a player! What a player!
So moving on to the next topic, the cricket, right? It has seen a lot of evolution from the time it started. It all started with Test cricket. Then in the 1970s, ODIs came in. When ODIs came in, it was said that Test cricket would decline, but it didn't. And Test cricket still remains the pinnacle. Now with T20s coming in, I think there is a slight viewership decrease in the ODIs at the moment. Do you see that's a slight dip? ODIs will continue, or ODIs, it's the end of ODI cricket. And now with the 100 also coming in, it's a new format. So do you see 100 will be the future? So what do you see about this evolution of cricket? And also there are like a lot of things which has evolved, right? Like the bats, like the way the bats were previously. Now with thick sized edges, and the current and past cricketers, they used to play on uncovered pitches. Now all this covered pitches, and with the advent of helmets, there are a lot of things which have changed in cricket. So what are your thoughts about it?
No, I think Test cricket is continuing to be really exciting, mostly around the world, because in the last 4 or 5 years, it has been so good for bowlers, especially fast bowlers, but also spinners. You know, if you see the India, Australia, England, West Indies, now Pakistan, all of them, and South Africa, of course, all have like extremely good bowling attacks, fast bowling attacks. Not only in the 90s when we grew up, each team had like 2 or 3 bowlers at the most, but these days you're finding teams having 4 good fast bowlers. That is a luxury to have, and when you have pitches that help you, then automatically the battle becomes slightly more tilted to the ball, and that is always the best cricket that you can get, when the battle is slightly tilted to the ball. You don't want every match to end in a less than 100 score or 81 all out. That is not going to be good. But if you have like the Lord's Test, where one team scores 350 plus, another team gets a small lead, and then you have that is perfect. That is what you feel. So I think for Test cricket to continue being exciting, it is good if the ball can slightly dominate the bat. One day cricket, I think, is still extremely exciting when the context is there. Like if it's like a World Cup, or if it's like a multi-team tournament, then there is a automatic excitement for it, like a Champions Trophy or something. But I think bilateral ODIs, even though they are still quite popular, especially in India, I think we will have to find a way to make the context there. So just like you have the World Test Championship, maybe you can use those bilateral one-dayers points for like a bigger championship, something like that. That can be one option. T20s, I think, of course, have been a game changer in many ways for the players themselves. I mean, there are many players who will never play for India, but just by playing T20 and IPL, they are able to make a good living, which is a big change from before. And T20 has, I mean, even if you play like, Tamil Nadu Premier League, Karnataka Premier League, those are, pretty good for players. Before, there was no such option. So definitely T20 has been a game changer. 100, I think it is too early to say. It has been started in England, and of course, people are having mixed views on it. But I would give it a little more time, especially because a lot of it seems to be very similar to T20, but there seems to be a few jazzy rules that are coming in. So I don't think it is fundamentally too different from T20. Maybe like, it finishes slightly earlier or all that, but eventually I think it is a T20 game. And even records, Cricinfo has said T20 and 100 we are going to maintain it as together. So I don't see that much. I mean, maybe I'm sure it has been very good for the women's teams to get so much visibility. and play in the 100 like that. So if that helps women's cricket, I'm all for it. I mean, women's cricket, I think, is something that definitely needs to get all the support that we can give. And if it means that is going to prop up women's cricket, sure, why not?
In fact, we might also say T10 in Olympics in 2028. You never know. So at an international level. So let's hope cricket keeps evolving.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say one last thing about this. See, there is this belief that, Test cricket was, the 5-day format, the same way it is played today for many, many years. But that is actually not true, because even in the early 1900s, there used to be 3-day tests. There used to be 4-day tests. And then there have been timeless tests. There have been 6-day tests, timeless tests. There was a famous match in South Africa where the England team actually had to leave the test match because they had to catch the boat home, because the match was going on for like 10 days or 11 days or something. So the fact is, Test cricket has itself had its own changes in time, duration, this, that. There have been changes in the rules with the ball. There have been 8-ball overs, 6-ball overs. In Australia, back in the 70s, people used to play with 8-ball overs. And then there has been, multiple changes, uncovered pitches, as you said, covered pitches. So Test cricket itself has evolved in various ways, and it has tried to adapt to various formats. So all these new formats like 100, T10, this, that, it's fine. It's just like Test cricket was evolving. These other formats are also evolving. And if one of them sticks, so good, so be it. If Olympics takes up T10, great. Then it will become a global, in a global event, you're getting to see cricket. Why not? I mean, I'm not somebody who looks down on formats. I'm just somebody who feels that the sort of the cricketing aspect should be there. You don't want to create a format just for the sake of Bollywood and glitz and glamour. You want to create it for the cricket. That's all.
I personally feel that especially when me and Sid now live in a country where cricket is not a most popular sport. So when you go out, I see a lot of soccer pitches in Canada, like lots and lots of soccer pitches. 10 years back, soccer was not even a popular game in Canada. And now in 2026 or 2024, I don't know the exact time, they are hosting a FIFA World Cup along with Mexico and USA. The reason for that is that look at soccer. It is how easy to describe the game to a kid. That there is one goal post, there is another goal post. You go and score that side, you go and score this side. So that way, it's very easy to popularize the game. The cricket, if you really want it to be a global sport, there are so many challenges, like logistical challenges. You need pitches, nets, rollers, pads, batting gloves, this, that. So if you really want to make a game global, the least you can do is keeping it simple. So I like Sid, I would not jump very quickly jump to the conclusion and say that 100 is bad. But what I'm trying to say is that because we understand the game, we adapt to these new, formats like fish to water. Like, what if it's 100? We still know the game. We still know the cover drive. We still know the no ball. We still know why the ball that is pitched outside the leg stump will not be given LBW. We know all these things. But go to a new guy and try him to understand the game of cricket. Oh, we have a 5-day match. We have a one-day match. And then we have a T20. So I think somewhere the cricket administrators need to settle down on one thing, that this is the format which will go global. This is the format, we will stick to it for the next 20 years at least, and then see that whether the kids in Brazil have picked up, the kids in China have picked up, or Serbia is playing this game. We can't have 5 formats and imagine, ask people to, when we look at the game, we look at it from the streets of Chennai, from the India Gate Gardens of Delhi. We don't look at it from just like when I go to Canada, I really feel that how can, like, if I talk to someone and tell them, like, this is a sport, this is cricket, this is how we play, and after 15 minutes, they are struggling with the amount of information I have given to them. So I think that's where administrators and everyone needs to think that we need to pick one format, whether it is 2020, whether it is 100, whether it is T10, and then stick with it for a few years to make the game global. Purists will watch Test cricket come what may. They will stick to that. That will remain their bread and butter. For if you are a cricket lover, I still think that the kind of thrill Lord's Test match could give me. Just imagine that in the last 8 overs, England would have started surviving for those 5-6 overs when the mandatory over had started. And the last 3-4 overs when India needed 2 wickets, and if India was desperately trying for these 2-3 wickets and England was showing resilience, that 3 overs would give you the amount of exuberance, exhilaration you will not even get in 50 T20 games. This is how I look at it, and I feel that somewhere we need to settle on one format and stick with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Also, I mean, I don't want to, get into this topic too deeply, but one point we must also remember is that there is this misconception that if you want to globalize a format, it needs to be short. That the shorter the format, the better it is for globalization. That is not necessarily true. I mean, I know people in the US who devote 4 days for watching golf tournaments. A golf tournament happens for 4 days.
Exactly.
They devote their whole 4 days for golf. They watch it and they go to the golf course to watch it. They watch it on TV. They talk about it. So people will spend time on it if it is interesting. It has to. You have to make sure you tell them it is interesting, and you have to convey that message correctly.
Absolutely, Nishant. I mean, if you look at us, guys like us from 80s or 90s, we used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch the pre-shows of the India tour of Australia, also end up watching the post-shows of India tour of Australia. So for us, there was no limit to it. Test cricket, absolute pinnacle for us. So it was absolutely brilliant.
No,
Now,
I'll
let's talk
give
about
you.
your...
I'll give you very quickly. I will just add to one thing. The
Yeah.
way Test cricket is consumed now these days is also very different. And I work in a OTT industry now. I think what will happen in a Test cricket is that people will not spend 5 days watching a Test match, but if anyone can package it well and create nice 10 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour segments of it, and then put it on OTT, it will be very popular. It will be because it has all the drama of the day. I don't want to, a new fan would not like to see someone, blocking 100 balls and getting 26 runs. But if that is packaged well and shown in a 1 hour capsule in the night, when I've come back from home and I'm eating my dinner and my iPad is in front of me, I would watch it.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching that Ashwin's YouTube show, Mike Kutti story that he does after the Lord's Test. And I was thinking, while he is talking to the fielding coach, and if you can overlay that with, say, parts of the action, if you can overlay that with parts of the commentary, expert commentary, if you can then get some fan perspective, or if you can get some 81 all out kind of banter, and if you put that all together, and for say even forget 1 hour, even if it is 2 hours,
Yeah.
people will lap it up, because there you're getting depth, you're getting variety, you're getting a cricketer's point of view, you're getting the expert's point of view. Then you can even put some history, because India and England have a rich cricketing history. That rivalry is rich. You can add that. You can actually make it like a documentary for 2 hours after each test, and there is actually enough talent in the industry to do that. I mean, there are amateurs doing great stuff on social media and online. So this is something that you can easily do, and that is what drives interest in the game. Ultimately.
So Nishant and Sid, you already spoke about
So-
Dhoni's journey, and about the interview you did recently. You had posted a pic also, I think, with Dhoni. So yeah, tell us more about how Dhoni is. How did that interview happen, and how was the journey with Dhoni?
In those days, Dhoni had just busted into the international scene, and at that time, just not Dhoni, every cricketer was sort of approachable. There was a touch and feel scenario to that. You could go to them, you can talk to them, and just not for interview perspective. I still remember 2004 Rahul Dravid getting those 270 odd runs in Rawalpindi, and those evenings we used to have dinner with him, and it was not a very big deal. But right now, the amount of professionalism, which is great for the sport, the side effect of it is that there is a wall between you and the cricketer now. So you now see cricketer from only a cricketer's perspective. And Sid, I think, once mentioned it very nicely in one of his tweets. So if you want to know about Ashwin, you will get to know through R. Sridhar or Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma. So it's a community talking to each other. So that thing, in our days, it was very different. We could walk out to any cricketer, talk with them. I used to walk to a cricketer, and Sid will tell you, I used to be very notorious. I used to be considered that one who knows cricketers very well. But my internal, philosophy was that at worst, what he can do, he will say no. And that used to be my philosophy. And I used to go and meet anyone and everyone about it. I still remember I convinced Sean Pollock. I used to produce a show called Kapil Dil Se in 2003 for Sony. And Kapil Dev used to interview a cricketer. So we had to interview Sean Pollock. And I had to convince Sean Pollock to do a interview with Kapil Dev. And in that entire interview, Kapil Dev kept calling him Shane Pollock. But all that was fun. All that was great. So coming back to this Dhoni thing. So I knew him, and Sid said that if you know him, we can do this together. And I just reached out to him, and he had came out playing that brilliant innings at Faisalabad. Although Faisalabad wicket is a national highway, but still India was in a real trouble. 600 for they were chasing around 600 runs of first innings, and Shoaib Akhtar like steaming hot, and India were 4 for 200 something like that. And he came and started hooking and punching back foot punches and hooked Shoaib Akhtar for a mighty 6 on a short ball and got 100. And after that, I think in the Faisalabad Test match, during the Faisalabad Test match, Sid had this idea, and I said, let's try it. At worst, what will happen? He will say no. He was at that time also a little shy kind of a guy who would not do many interviews and all that. But to our absolute delight, he agreed. He called us to his room in Islamabad, that beautiful Marriott, which was later blown up in a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
And I still have great memories of that hotel. And we sat in his room for almost 3 hours to do a half an hour interview. So that was the kind of access. It was just not an interview in those days. Like spending those 3 hours in his room for a half an hour interview where he offered us food, where he kept playing video game, and he was not bothered that 2 journalists are sitting next to him. So it was not a very professional, a manager standing, okay, your 10 minutes start now, ask your 10 questions, send me a copy before pushing this interview on air or writing it somewhere. All that was not there. There was a mutual trust between players, what will be said, what will not be said. I still remember in my 10 years when I was doing active journalism, no cricketer never told me that what not to print. Never ever. Because there was so much trust. There was a filter in our body, in our mind that was installed that immediately we knew. And we used to tell cricketers, "Arey yaar, ye kya bol diya? Ye nahi jayega. Acha, tere ko theek nahi lag raha, kaat de." So that is the kind of trust we had. And we had a great time with him, to see him as not just as a cricketer. We don't know much about Dhoni. Like even his closest friends will not be able to tell you what kind of person he is. But that's the way he is. There's a kind of aura around him. Like with Yuvraj, you know everything. He likes kadi chawal, he cries, he laughs, he's happy, he's sad, everything you know about him. But with Dhoni, there is a certain privacy. So we were lucky that at that stage we could breach that privacy. We got that 3 hours with him. And Sid wrote a beautiful piece. I just helped him with setting it up and asking some questions. But he wrote a beautiful piece. I still remember the headline, Citius Altus Fortius. It was a great, that one of the great days of covering cricket. And so much fun it was to cover cricket. I still remember those days, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nishant is obviously loves to underplay whatever his role is, but no, he set it up. But also because, see, the other thing is that Nishant has played cricket at a pretty good level, right? I mean, he has played with very good cricketers like Yuvraj, Harbhajan, and things. So for him as a journalist, he could ask the right questions from the cricket point of view, which I could not have asked because I did not have that cricketing experience like the way he did. So when we were speaking to Dhoni, there was a lot to ask both on cricket and on himself, and his life and his approach to things and all that. So it came together very well. And Dhoni was extremely cooperative. I mean, there was absolutely. I mean, he called us. He was playing video games with RP. He continued playing for a little while. Then as we were waiting, and then after that, he came to us. He spoke to us. Then he offered us snacks. It was very, very relaxed. It was like going to a friend's house and just having a good time and going back. And this was somebody who I was meeting for the first time. And I was we were part of the media, of course. So, media players, but back then it was very different. Dhoni was new to international cricket, but forget Dhoni, like Rahul Dravid, Sachin Tendulkar, VVS Lakshman, Sachin Tendulkar, slightly more difficult to get. But when you got him, just the kind of interaction you would get with him was like as if it's a friend. They would talk to you in such down to earth terms and in such normal ways. You would not feel even that you're doing an interview. That is how easy it was. I mean, Saurav Ganguly, I mean, honestly, he would, when you used to talk to him after 10 minutes, you used to forget that you're actually interviewing him, because he would just be so easy and calm, and he would joke with you, and he would, he would say things that both of you knew cannot be printed, but he had the trust to say it. And then at the end of the interview, of course, he'll say, "Arey, wo sab nikal dena." Of course, you know that because you have spoken to him. He has given you the time. So the Dhoni thing was very interesting for me, because it was, I think, also the perfect time in his career to get him for such a long interview. Because, had it been slightly earlier, then he himself might not have had that many experiences in international cricket. And had it been slightly later, then he would have had different experiences, because by 2007, he was a captain of the T20 team that won that World Cup and all that. So 2006 was a perfect time. And it was, we got to speak to him in detail about batting, cricket, him growing up. He had played a lot of Ranji Trophy cricket for Bihar at that stage. So we got to talk to him over that. And then about that Faisalabad test, what his mental approach is when facing somebody like Shoaib Akhtar, when India are in trouble. How do you decide when to go for the risk, when to not? To understand all that. Unfortunately, Cricinfo has not yet published that piece online. It was in a magazine back then that used to be called Cricket Monthly. Cricket. Yeah, I think it was called Cricinfo magazine back then.
Yeah.
And it was published there, but they don't have a print version. So hopefully online version is what I mean. Hopefully they'll publish the online version at some point. But it was lovely, and it was one of my early big interviews to do. So for me personally, it was a big deal. You remember these things fondly when you interview a cricketer early in your career, and they are so nice to you, and then you write the piece, and that it makes a difference. So overall, I think and the thing about that interview, which I will never forget, is we finished talking to him for about 3 hours. We came out of the hotel room, and then Nishant and I were talking about, we were blown away by how easy it was and how comfortable the whole thing was. And then also how intelligent Dhoni was. It was very clear to us that here was an extremely intelligent and sharp cricketing brain. And Nishant told me, we might have just interviewed the future India captain. That's still stuck in my head. And that was great foresight.
And I think you guys have seen Dhoni piece. Whenever you guys get time, me and Sid were extremely lucky. In 2019, I was helping the Canadian Cricket League, and Sid was there as a cricket writer for us. We did few pieces which were like mind blowing. Like, you have to, somewhere if you find, you should read that piece where we forced Wasim Akram to imagine himself playing a T20 game and creating his spells to David Warner and Chris Gayle up front in the middle overs, trying to break a partnership between Virat Kohli and Josh Butler, and in the end coming to bowl to MS Dhoni and Andre Russell. And the way he spoke was so fantastic. It was like such a great cricket insight. And then we did late Dean Jones, and a few things he said. He said that very soon we'll have a rule in cricket where a coach will be allowed to retire a batsman. He said there might not be any on-field umpires, just cameras to take help, all those kind of stuff. So, so I feel that apart from that Dhoni piece, the great thing which me and Sid did together in our humble capacity was that thing. You should find time to read that piece. That's really, if you love your cricket, you will love that piece.
It's on Cricinfo. The Wasim Akram piece is on Cricinfo. You can find it easily. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sure.
Excellent.
Sure.
Yeah, this has been outstanding. I mean, I feel that we should go on forever, but we do have to sadly call it a day. But hopefully, Nishant, you've been earlier on our shows and said maybe during World Cup or IPL, would love to have you back for another segment. But thank you so very much for these gold point of views. And 81 All Out, we do check out here and there, but folks who are watching, drop in there and listen in. I'm sure you'll get more stories like these. And Sid's tweets are outstanding. And Nishant, thank you so much for introducing us to Vijay Lokpalli sir. He consistently comes on our shows, and we absolutely love the insights. So thank you again. for the time, and we really appreciate your help.
Thank you very much. It's
Thank
great
you,
to have. It's great to be on this platform, and it's really wonderful to catch up with you all and Sid also. It just feels like just another day is in the early 2000s, having a coffee with Sidvi in one of the lobbies, waiting for an interview or a player to come out. So
Yeah, the amount of time we have spent in hotel lobbies waiting for players, that is another
maybe you
story
should,
for another day.
maybe you should do a podcast just on that, a life of a cricket journalist in 2000.
Okay,
Trust
that's
me,
not
it
a
will
bad
be the
idea.
most hilarious. It will be the most hilarious thing you've ever done.
We
Yeah.
also had a few questions, other questions as well. Due to time constraints, we are just we had to stop. I think we can do a part 2 with that one and other questions.
We
Sure,
can have
sure,
multiple
sure.
parts, Nishant. As long as you both are available, multiple parts. We can have multiple parts.
Yeah,
Yes,
always
anytime.
always ready to talk about cricket, and that is the some of life's biggest joys. So no problem.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thanks for watching, folks who are watching. Drop us a comment and tell us what you think about the show. Thank you, Sid and Nishant. Stay safe and happy Raksha Bandhan to everybody. Thanks for watching. Akash and Vishak, see you later.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Nishant.
everyone.
Thank you, Sid.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
See you.